The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.
We're here with Charlene Kaye. Charlene, we'll get to you in a sec, but thank you for being here. Thank you. I got a threat.
Oh yeah.
And it's as someone who said they're gonna assault me tonight. So I figured we'd talk about it now, just in case we have it on the record. We can all discuss it now.
You.
Don't impersonate me if you're going to protect me. You need to impersonate someone a lot stronger than me. So it was like, I got in trouble.
Do you know
on
the specific
Twitter.
joke?
Well, so I got this email. They said, or first it was an Instagram message, and it said "nice Holocaust joke." And me, I was like, "Which one?"
Yeah,
I got 6 million of them.
Oh my God.
That's an exaggeration.
Oh my God.
So I'm. I know what it was. But they said, I'll read it. I'll read it exactly. It basically said, like, I'm gonna smash your face into the. Here it is.
Do you know the person's name?
I cannot wait to see you. Okay, so no, I mean,
Do they,
I think this is a fake name.
Fake name. Okay.
But it said, like, I cannot wait to see you outside of. And then it was the specific comedy club I'm at. So which adds scariness to it, but. You could do about anything, anywhere. Mm-hmm. My schedule's fully available. And that's the problem with this whole life.
Yeah.
I'm literally like, hey, if you want to find me, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so it said, I'll come, you won't see me because I'll come from behind. But I'm gonna stomp your head into the concrete.
Oh my God.
And here's why I don't believe it. You don't often say to people, I'm gonna be behind you in 2 days. Usually you just do it.
Yeah.
So I made the mistake. I blocked them.
Yeah.
And as I'm dealing with this, figuring out like, okay, and I think we're gonna do something to make sure everything's simpatico. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get there early, all that jazz. But I reached out to a comedian, like to be like, have you dealt with this? What do you do? And like a bigger comedian, and Cosby wrote back that we'll bleep that out. And so they wrote back. They said, "Don't block. You're not supposed to block because that gives them an extra. It gives them an extra juice. You just mute." So little advice, because if you block, then they see it. So basically, I blocked, and then I got an email because I have all sorts of ways to contact me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if I blocked him on email. He joined the Patreon.
Wait, what did he say in the email then?
The email said, I overreacted. It actually was a good joke. No, the email said, well, so first it said, the subject said paid event opportunity. Now they were mad at me for a Jewish joke. And I do think it's a little bit stereotypical to think, oh, I know how we're going to get him to open this email.
Oh, yeah.
A paid event opportunity. Just saying.
Yeah.
You think blocking me on Instagram is going to keep me from showing up at your show and putting my foot down your throat?
Oh my God.
Are you? And then he said, can you read? You can read it first.
No, he said, are you? Okay, he used the R word.
Oh wait, no, that was an email you sent me.
Stop.
Okay, and then it said, go back to the boot. I don't know what the boot is.
Italy?
And then,
that's
so funny. Well, here's how I know it's Italy, because the next words are you wop.
Oh my God.
And what's so funny is like I've always considered myself so little Italian that I'm almost embarrassed. I'm almost like I don't even know if I can claim Italian.
Your name is so Italian.
I've never done a
though.
DNA test because I'm like, I'm going to be, if I'm 2% Italian, that's humiliating.
Yeah.
My name is Gianmarco Soresi.
Yeah.
And it's very funny in this instance where now I'm being called a wop.
Yeah.
I'm being called an Italian slur. And it's kind of...
I don't even know what a WAP is besides wet ass pussy.
A WAP,
I really hope that's what it stands
Can we look
for.
up what WAP is? But WAP Guinea Dago, I believe, is like the full slur, which I can say, apparently.
Yeah. Do you know, I didn't know that last one, the D one, that slur.
The D? You mean like for...
The when you just said 3 words.
Oh, WAP Guinea Dago. Yeah. I honestly, you could say it.
Okay, well, I didn't know it. And then one time that we were in middle school, and this teacher, she was doing something, and we were talking about colors, and this this kid I remember goes, I think it's kind of like a day glow. And he said day glow. And she goes, what did you just say? What did you just say? She started freaking out. And we were all like, what? He said day glow. And she's like, oh, I thought. And then she like taught us what that word was. And we were like,
Did she tell you the word?
Yeah. She's like, it's a slur for Italians. And we were all like, oh, okay.
That is so
None of us would
funny.
have known that. Like, and then you taught us a whole class of 8th graders what it is.
Did you go home and say to your parents?
No, I mean, I've never said it since.
You said it as a kid. Your parents like, what the fuck did you just say?
No, it's just funny. It's like she ended up teaching everyone what that slur was because we had no idea.
We had a kid.
God.
We had a kid in my high school, and he said the white version of the N word. You know that there was a time starting with a W instead of an N. You've never heard this word?
No.
It was like there was a time where it was used a little bit more often.
Yeah.
I mean, at least where I went to high school.
Yeah.
But the teacher, not knowing the word at all, thought he had just said he was.
Oh.
Yeah, and she was like so like, oh my God, what did you say? And the problem was explaining it doesn't make it that much better.
No.
You're like, yeah, it was just one.
No.
What was the first slur you learned?
Chink, honestly. But I'm really enjoying hearing all the slurs against white people. I'm like,
yeah.
to hear that you got told to go back to where you're from blows my mind.
I know.
To the boot.
To the boot.
To
Go back to the boot.
I mean, Italian racism. What is this? I don't even know what era. 1700s.
equal opportunity.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Did you hear that word like someone said like this is what it is, or were you called it, or did you hear someone else get called it?
I heard someone else get called it when I was in 7th grade because I had lived in Hawaii up until I moved to Arizona.
Uh-huh.
And in Hawaii, everyone's Asian, and we are the majority there.
Uh-huh.
But when I moved to Arizona, it's primarily white. I was one of like 10 Asian people there. Maybe there were like 5 black kids at my school. So it was eye-opening. And all of a sudden, like I had to exist in a totally different space and like realize that not everybody looked like me and like learned how to code switch. And
What age was this that you moved to Arizona?
I was 13.
Was it shocking? Did you realize how few Asians were going to be at your school when you moved to Arizona? Like, were you prepped for it, or were you like, oh my God?
No, I was not prepped for it at all because my mom's an immigrant. And so when I came to the mainland, as we called it, it was like, oh, this is the type of American high school that I've seen in the movies. And it was very different from, being at a school where most people were like, look like me. And so I had to sort of like navigate what it meant to be called China girl. Like, I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, wait, I'm not actually from China. Like, it was this whole like, cognitive dissonance thing where I didn't understand why I was being associated with the country that I'd never been to. Have you been to Italy?
I mean, well, apparently I'm going back there really soon. Yeah. I better go back there. Yeah, but I felt nothing.
When you were visited, you didn't feel like this is my.
Yeah, I was raised so fake Italian. I was raised like on the on my dad's perception of what being an Italian was. Whether we're Italian we looked at the family history, and apparently my great grandfather is definitely Italian. My great grandma is probably from like Spain, and you're like, why wasn't this should be an equal part? I should be Gianmarco.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, I don't even know if that's accurate because I don't even know enough about Spain to know if that's the correct stereotypical name to be pulling.
Yeah.
But I have been to Hawaii, and I did like Hawaii, especially because of 7-Eleven. You know, it's funny. I have a joke.
7-Eleven.
Well, the 7-Elevens there, they have like sushi.
Oh.
But it's good.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, it's like if I go to 7-Eleven here, I'm getting a banana. That's all.
Yeah.
But the sushi in Hawaii,
Really?
incredible. Well, we're here with Charlene Kaye. Welcome to the Downside, Charlene. Thank you. This is a place that we complain about negativity. We don't have to look on the bright side. We can just say, hey, this sucks. And I think, honestly, guys, in the new era of Trump, by the way, it was not great. It was not great before. A lot of things going on, but we need to be honest. We need to be honest. We don't need to pretend things are nice. We don't need to be Dave Chappelle and at the end go, Mr. President, I wish you the best. please do no, stop these little like moments of like fake niceness don't mean anything. They might make you tingle. They might make you think, oh, isn't it nice if we all like led with kindness? But just saying it in a monologue form so a bunch of liberals can stand up for a guy, it's not real. And that's what this show is. It's the real show.
Yeah.
This is so that's what you're hearing. And I think one of the things I always felt like I wanted to is I would look at people whose lives, things I might have envy, or I look at their lives and I go, oh, that I wish I had that. And part of the show is I get to find out maybe not.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. As someone who had we were out for dinner last night, me, Russell, and our friend Douglas, and all three of us, we were talking about, what we wish we had, if we could go back, if we could have changed kind of one thing. One thing we all said, God, I wish we had learned how to play the piano. Mm-hmm. Oh. And now, can you tell me all the instruments that you studied growing up?
Well, first of all, racist that you assume I play classical piano, but you're right, I do.
I did my research, by the way. It's not racism, it's research.
And second of all, I just want to say that I was raised by a Russian Jew, so I feel very akin to you too.
Yes.
Amazing. This is Lucas over here.
Is there a slur for that?
It's just the Jewish one. They don't really differentiate.
Yeah, I think it's just all the Jewish slurs. But side note, my name is Kaye, Kaye, because when my great-grandfather immigrated through Ellis Island, his name was Kozlovsky.
Oh.
And so the border agent was like, that's too confusing for me. I'm just going to rename you the letter K.
Wow.
And so he goes, I can't just have a letter for my name. So he phonetically spelled it out, Kaye. And he, fast forward, he ended up adopting my sister and I, and we took his name.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
So can you give me your full family breakdown? Because I know it's unique. Yeah.
That was so loaded.
Unique.
Yeah. So both of my parents are Chinese. They divorced when I was really young. My mom
And your parents, forgive me, they immigrated here from China?
from Singapore.
From Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my mother grew up in the 1960s. Both of my parents grew up in poverty. They met. They both come from 7 sibling families. And when they had my sister and I, they divorced. My mother put in an application that she saw in the classified section of a newspaper there looking for work. She was like, oh, this dude needs a secretary. She applied for that job to work for Marty Kaye. They had a little office romance.
Oh.
Wait, okay, all right. Okay, so first, wait, let me pose, older sister, younger sister?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Yeah.
How much younger is the next one?
2 years.
2 years. So they had a second kid, and how old were you when they got divorced?
They were, okay, so here's where it gets complicated because they got back together and divorced a bunch of times.
A bunch of times.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Bunch.
Like my mom was with Marty. She got back together with my dad to have me. She went back to Marty.
Oh my God, okay.
She went
Okay, so
back
She
to,
cannot
with
make
my
up
dad
her mind. She's
to have my sister.
wow.
Then they split up.
How did
for
Marty
real.
take this, by the way?
She's like-
Terribly, but he was obsessed with her. He bought a house in her name to say, I'm fucking in this long term and you can just come whenever you're ready. And then eventually we moved in with him.
But hold up. So, okay, she has you, and then they must have had a conversation. She goes back between the two of you.
Yeah.
And
Between the two of them.
But
Between the two
of you and your
yes,
sister.
yeah.
So Marty must go, why didn't you want to have the kid with me?
Well, Marty was significantly older
Oh.
than she was.
How much older? Like
They were 16 years apart. So when she had me, she was 36. So he was, I can't do math, 16 years older than that.
But they were romantically involved.
Yeah.
And then I just can't imagine. I just fool me once.
yeah.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice.
Well, but he wanted to be in a relationship with her the whole time. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like
And what's crazy
like,
is
oh.
that Marty legally adopted us. So my name
One at a time or simultaneously?
at the same time when we finally moved in with him. I
Okay.
was 7 when my mother was
you
like,
were- okay.
we're doing this, we're getting married. We're like,
Why do you think do you have any idea why your mom didn't want to try having a kid with Marty?
I don't know. There's a lot honestly about my family history that still I'm piecing it together. And the more I learn about my mother's life, my Marty has passed. And my most recent stepdad, who she married after Marty passed when I was 15, he just passed. And the more I'm learning about my family history, the more I'm like, this is a fucking like limited series waiting to happen. Like there's so much like drama and resentment in my mother's world of like her sisters and her relationship and like, yeah. So
Who gives you the facts though? Does your mom, does she like sprinkle it like, oh, I remember that?
She has a little bit of a selective memory. So there are times when I get morsels and I'm like, wait, what? And then there are times she goes, I never said that. And I'm like, excuse me, you can't just drop that out of nowhere. So it's a little bit of a ever unspooling thread.
So
How was
that.
your dad in the like back and forthness? Like how was he? Was
which
that
dad?
like
You buy
like your biological dad? Like what was?
his role?
Yeah, what was his role? Was he like, okay, bye, I'll be here when you get back?
We
Like,
saw
You want
him.
another kid, I guess.
Okay.
I'll be here.
Yeah, we saw him growing up, but it was like, this is just another guy who's like in our life. And
Interesting.
and I didn't even become close with him until high school when I started to be like, okay, let's like, we're both sort of adults. Let's have a friendship. And he lives in Singapore still. I see him every couple
He
of
moved
years.
back to-
He never left. So my sister and I,
But your mom met Marty in Hawaii?
in Singapore.
In Singapore.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
all of this is in Singapore. Oh my God.
And then he moved. Then everyone moved to Hawaii.
to Hawaii.
Yeah.
When you talked to friends, like when you were a kid, were they like, who's this guy?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my sister and I were a little bit like, we would have dinners with both of them at the dinner table when he would come to visit, and we would be like,
Did they all get
we have
along?
two dads. Yeah,
That's
they did.
wild.
It
That's
was crazy.
wild.
Yeah.
After the second one is the one that really blows my mind.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, both of them were, as far as you know, were they a betrayal of Marty? Like, or did Marty go, this is fine?
I think that because she ultimately chose him, at the end of the day, he was like,
Yeah.
it's fine because they are my children now. Like my biological
Sure.
dad was like, he gave him permission to legally adopt us, which is a big deal.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, I don't think my biological dad was ever ready to have kids.
Yeah.
I think he was okay giving us the best life that we could have with another man raising us.
Sure.
Yeah.
And when you were a kid growing up, do you feel like you said, were you like left in the dark in your childhood? Did you have to piece it together on your own? Did Marty like explain it to you?
You mean my Asian identity, like just assimilating into Arizona?
Just like what happened? Like my dad had a fake marriage with I thought she was my stepmom, and I called her my stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, like, you know, just to share it, was like, you know, that wasn't a real marriage, and it was basically like a fake ceremony. I think they had for her sake. Her family was like, you know, you're pregnant and you're not even married, and so my dad was like, okay, we'll do a ceremony. So we had like a wedding ceremony, and my step grandfather officiated it, but he was not a priest anymore. So it was all fake. It was all for show.
So much work to do.
I know. I was the ring boy, and I dropped the rings, and I should have seen it as a sign. But like, for me, my later discovery in life of like, was my dad. A lot of these relationships ended because my dad was cheating and the woman found out. That was like a later discovery of, that's why these women left my life completely. And it's like, that's kind of the thing I didn't learn until way later. And I don't know if I would have liked to know it if I was sooner.
Yeah.
But when you were a kid, I mean, did you understand? Like,
no, my childhood was they didn't want us to know anything. Down to the point where, I'm going to get very personal here. So Marty, he had cancer when I was 15. He passed of cancer. He never told us that it was fatal. He kept going to get treatment and coming back. When he left, for the last time to go to hospice. Wow, I didn't know I was going to talk about this today. He goes, "It's okay, guys. I'll just be back next week. I'll be back next week."
Oh my
He didn't
God.
want
Oh
us
my
to
God.
know that anything wasn't okay. And
Yeah.
so when we did finally get the news that it wasn't going to be okay, he was going to pass, it was devastating. And like, kids are so much smarter than you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
My sister and I believed them, and we felt so betrayed when we realized that we were being treated with kid gloves. Like, I understand where that phrase comes from now, because it was like we weren't given the benefits and that we had the maturity to handle that this was a very serious illness, right?
Yeah.
And so
Do you see
I
that
think
as
we
like
were
a-
shielded from a lot of details when we were young that only now I'm like realizing through, therapy and like creating and stuff, where I come from and how this has impacted me and why I have certain relationship patterns and why I have like affinity to certain people. And like, it's an interesting time in my life.
Do you see that this, like, because this is, high level, going to hospice and saying I'll be back next week is the highest level of keeping your kids in the dark. Is this a Chinese cultural thing? Is this a Russian thing? Is this a Jewish thing?
It's
or is this
both.
like it's both?
Yeah, I think that for my dad, he just loved us so much that he didn't want us to feel any pain. And I think that there was definitely an element of denial too, with him feeling that he could like just get better. He could just like strong arm his way like out of the illness. And he was a wonderful man, but he did have that like masculine quality about him where he was like, I can just think my way out of this and it'll be fine. And as far as like the Chinese side of that goes, there's also a lot of denial. There's a lot of like not wanting to show any messiness, not wanting to admit that you're struggling. Like, I just was in Hawaii and I had a huge fight with my mom because I expressed displeasure and sadness over something that she said. And it wasn't that I was upset. It was just that there was like a time and place. You don't show your discomfort. You don't show any messiness. Like, you keep your seams all like sewn up and then you fall apart in private.
Sure.
Which is so not how I am. I'm an artist. I'm a bleeding heart. Like, I leave it. I like write about my shit. I write about all of my breakups. I talk about every person I've dated on stage. I like write songs about this stuff. And like, I think that's why I gravitate towards your work. And like, I think there's something about being vulnerable and like sharing this experience that we're all going through and being like, this is really fucked up, but everyone's going through this. We're not alone.
Sure.
And so
Well, I think
she doesn't understand why I have to share everything, and it's very painful for her.
Of course, I mean, what we do to our parents is inexcusable. But it's like I mean, I do philosophize that people who like to talk about their families, there's a part where it's like we weren't able to as kids, and so we had things bubbling up inside and we had thoughts and why is this happening and there's this hypocritical thing. And maybe like for me, I think I was like scared to talk when my stepdad was around because I was scared of him. And then my dad, I didn't know all the facts. And so then when you can express yourself, there's just this kind of deep inside of a desire to talk about. We're like, Russell's a tremendous comedian, but we have very different. You have parents? Yeah. Like, it is so, but it's just so different in terms of like need and what you want to do. And I don't know. For all I know, maybe you're like, well, you're full of shit. I had plenty of things to complain about, but that's always what I think why we love to do it. I say on stage, I want people to understand who my family is so they can understand how well I'm doing considering the circumstances. And I feel like that is partly the thesis. Yeah.
Well, can I ask you, you might have said this in previous podcasts, so forgive me if you're repeating yourself, but how does your dad feel about you talking about him? And like, I
mean, the bottom line is like
there's so many jokes about him.
He really is not fully aware, and I don't know if it's mental deterioration or like a total tune out. Or I did a podcast recently where the woman theorized he does care, but he just doesn't express it. I really don't think I truly think I don't think he can understand. He doesn't understand it. I think I might as well be talking about food or the the DMV. Like, I really don't think he sees it as himself. I've never I think I would honestly, it would be like a sign of life if he ever said to me, what the fuck was that? How dare you? How dare you? It's never come close.
Do you kind of wish that he would, because it shows that he would be paying attention to your work?
Not
Yeah.
anymore.
Are you doing it to get a response from him?
Not anymore. Maybe that was the seeds of wanting, but no, I'm very, in a sad way, divorced from whatever he thinks. And now I'm kind of a bitch about it in terms of like, if it was something I feel very justified in the things that if I feel justified in joking about something and I'm insecure, like I'll question it if I don't think I'm in the right. But whether it's the joke I got in trouble for with the threat or it's this thing, I go like, no, I can't say this actually from my vantage point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm so curious because you had these two men in your life. When did you start calling Marty your dad? From the beginning?
No, I called him Marty, and I called him Dada because he was always around when I was a kid, and it was only when we moved in with him that I remember this conversation. I was 7, and I went up to him and I said, "Can I call you Dad?" And he was so like, "Yeah, I would love that."
That's so sweet.
I was just like, this guy's always around. Like, he's acting like my dad.
Yeah.
Like,
What is a dad but a guy who's always around?
yeah.
Did you ever? And then what did you call your biological dad?
I call him Daddy because that's what I called him when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what you call President Trump. Daddy's home.
Daddy's home.
Wait, did you know that Roseanne Barr has just released a rap song?
I saw the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I feel a very strong daddy issues theme in this on this inauguration.
on this
day.
inauguration day. Recording.
Yeah, but like people, honestly though, I think. I mean, I can't speak for all people, but I go. Some people who have daddy issues, it's because they had a strong, or maybe like a father who made it seem like they knew. And so they so want the president to be that. They so want God to be that. Or they want the founding fathers. They want a man who's, don't worry, I got it. And I don't know, I saw that crumble so early. I go, to me, the illusion of like a man who knows everything feels similar to the idea of like a God who's taking care of everything. I'm like, guys, it's not. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You can want it, but you're making it up. What do you call your dad? Daddy?
Just dad.
Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember it was like a doctor's office. Well, I was like in middle school. And on the documents, they listed my stepfather as my dad. And I was very upset about it. And it was, almost but it didn't matter. But I was like, Mom, we have to change this.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I feel like middle school. I'm kind of guessing. But I just remember it feeling like a big deal that this piece of paper, that was just the doctor's folder, said that my stepdad was my dad.
Oh. My mom feels like my mom and my dad because she has such intense masculine energy. I heard this, like, this might feel a little new agey, but I've heard that like when people pass, people sort of absorb them into themselves in a way that like they take on some qualities after they pass. My mom loves Trump. And Fox News is on in every TV in the house every single time I go home.
Oh, wow.
And I think that it's very common for immigrants to really love him because he represents just what you said, like someone who's going to save us and like take care of us and stuff. And it's very misguided, of course. Like, she's an Asian woman. She's an immigrant herself. Yeah. And she doesn't understand how awful this administration is going to be for immigrants like her. But I think that there's something that like she gravitates to about this idea of masculinity, this aggression, this like taking things by force. I think she admires that in a way. And
she heard grab him by the pussy and she said,
I also think that even when it's not Trump, there's something about that generation of people. My parents, they don't like Trump, but they have like MSNBC or CNN on all the time.
Oh, that's the other end of the spectrum, which
all the time.
different can of worms.
But you're like, it's just the thing about the news being on all the time is crazy, and it's like and it's like not like when I go and visit, I'm like, turn this off. It's like it's like
ASMR
ruining your mind. Like it's like
she falls asleep to that shit.
Yes,
Crazy.
and you're just like gets you mad and angry and like, and you can't sustain yourself. It's all day long. It's just like
because people they need so many people, they need a good guy, bad guy mentality, and the news provides a constant reinforcement that there are good guys and there are bad guys, and you're on the good side. Like I mean that's. I just feel like that's why they need it on all the time. They need it on all the time because everything about reality challenges that notion.
And it's just a mix of like riling people about like politics and stuff, and then like just horrible stories that aren't actually news to you. You don't need to know them.
Yeah,
you know, like
trauma porn.
you're like, it's like baby found in blah blah. And you're like, I didn't need. That's not news to me. I'm not in that town. It's not my baby. Like that's not. I don't like. Why are we? Why do we decide certain things are news?
Because that's what gets attention.
I know.
And it gets clicks. Like my mom and I had to go to family therapy in 2016 when like all this.
Tell me about family therapy in 2016.
Was it just you and your mom? Or was
No.
it you and your mom and sister?
It was me, my mom, and my sister because we couldn't get into a conversation without her screaming about politics.
Oh.
And it was...
tell me, because my
2016.
My dad once pitched therapy to me, like the two of us, and I was like...
And you said no?
I mean, listen... He would have made me go to his therapist. I know it. It wouldn't have been...
What is his therapist like?
I honestly I have this theory that one day I'm gonna follow him, and I'm gonna look in, and it's gonna be like a skeleton in a suit, and he's just been seeing this guy for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Because if
it's a hot woman, his therapist.
yeah.
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
Because if I met my dad's therapist, I would be like, hey, so what have we been working on over here? Like, let's mix it up. Maybe can I get some feedback?
Yeah.
I think about therapy. Therapy is ultimately a younger science that hasn't been around that long, and I go like, I feel like there needs to be some kind of check-in. There needs to be more. I was on Zoom therapy, and something was wrong with the toilet or the Wi-Fi. I think it was the Wi-Fi. Something was wrong with the Wi-Fi. And while I was on Zoom with my earphones in, the guy came to the door, and I said to her, let me just deal with this. And she got to like witness me deal with a real thing. And I thought like, this is probably way more useful than me
presenting the version of myself.
Exactly.
She's like, oh.
Because she once saw me, I was going to her office, and the street was closed off for construction. And so there were cops there. And they said you could go there if you lived there. And I said, well, I'm seeing my therapist. And they said, you need to present a piece of mail with your name on it for one of these addresses for us to let you in. And I turned away, and I am a cursor. And I yell like my father. And I just went, fuck, piece of fucking shit, fuck. And I turned to my right. And of course, my therapist had come out to the street to bring me to my appointment. And it was one of those moments where I said, you know what, good.
Yeah.
Good,
yeah.
because you saw
that was a
real
real moment.
me.
Yeah.
That was real.
They're
If
like,
I told her, I'd be like, oh, yeah, it was a little frustrating out there.
Yeah.
I got a little...
Yeah, just like, wait, I'm your favorite, right?
So 2016, it's
Politics.
because of the election?
Yes.
Is this post election or like pre?
It's pre-election.
Okay,
it was when Breitbart was becoming a thing.
Yep.
It was like all these articles like lesbian bridezillas won't sell you the cakes that you want, like that kind of thing. And we sit there in the therapy room, and my mother is like, I'm like, listen, we can't speak without it immediately taking a detour into politics. And my mom goes, well, it's just that Obama wasn't born here and blah, 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 blah. And then the therapist is looking at her, but she's not even like paying attention to the therapist.
Yeah.
The therapist looks at me mid my mom rant. She goes, uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. And then at one point, my mom goes, my mom and my birth dad are not on good terms. And the therapist goes, Lily, do you think that you're harder on Charlene because she looks like your ex? And my mom looks at me and she goes, like a stamp.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Wait, so this sounds less like group therapy and more like what I said, like bring them to therapy and be like, fix this.
This person.
Is that what it felt like?
My sister and I had to drag her kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Why did she even go though? What did she? How did you
I think
justify
she wanted
it?
the therapist to tell us that we were wrong.
Okay.
It was more about like a power struggle. But here's the thing. My mom is such a charismatic, outrageous person. Like you see how
Like
I'm
Trump.
dressed? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But like she lights up a room. Everyone knows Lily. She's the center of the universe for anyone who knows her. And her ultimate dream when she was young was to be a singer. And so therein lies so much of our tension because we're so similar. She is a performer. She needs a stage, but she never had the resources to be able to express herself creatively. And she is a brilliant artist. Like I see her, she like does photography. She will like decorate a home in this like gorgeous, beautiful way. She knows color theory. She's a beautiful cook. And it's an interesting thing when your parents they sacrifice everything to bring you to a country so that you can have the opportunities that you wanted.
Yeah.
And so to survive famine and war and like come to America and then have me complain that I can't sing my little songs and like work as a waitress in New York City. She's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You've never had to be hungry ever. And I'm like, I know, but like, you don't want me to swear in my songs? Like it's so hard for me.
Yeah.
And so
was she paying for the therapy?
I believe my sister and I paid for it.
Really?
Yeah.
How many sessions? I'm sorry.
Just one.
Just one.
Oh no. We did one in Las Vegas where she used to live, and then we did a couple in New York when she came to visit us. And
Different
none
therapist?
of them, different therapists, and none of them were effective.
Wow.
What did you really think? Did you have hope going in, or did you go?
I did. I don't anymore. She's 70 years old at this point.
Sure.
Yeah.
She's so I've given up on changing any of her political views. At this point, I'm like, let it be your comfort blanket. That's fine. I'm not going to engage anymore. And I really resent all of the messaging that we were given back in 2016 that was like, change starts at home. You should really have those hard conversations with your family members. No, like I sacrificed so much of my mental health and my well-being to try to
do that.
talk to my mother about the issues. If you're that ingrained in the Trump like brain trust, you don't care. You're not trying to have your mind changed.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be vulnerable and like allow another person's perspective to come in. You want to be right. You want to fucking arm wrestle them, and that's it.
Do you find that you can engage and talk with her about other things without that coming into it? Like, is that like?
I think we've reached a point where we know that it's a bit of an impasse.
Yeah.
It's just such 2016 and 2020 were such it's such familiar tread ground. We know we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Did she think the election was stolen?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one
How about
thing.
your dad?
No, luckily my dad couldn't give. He's generally doesn't like Trump.
Oh really?
Yeah.
But he's still a conservative.
No. He's my father. My father is pretty much apolitical Democrat because honestly, I mean, I lucked out in the sense that. Is he a liberal or does he not care?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but he's not he doesn't care enough about unborn fetuses to have a real take. So yeah, abort them. Like that kind of thing. I don't think he doesn't give a shit. It's not that he thinks no children should go to be read a story by a drag queen. He just goes like, that doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
That does is so liberal in that
most
sense.
people.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. But I'm thankful I don't have to deal with this. I can't imagine. How do you look at it and look at like politics in general? Do you just look at people, you go, you gotta forget about them, say they're never gonna change?
I do what I can, and I engage when I think that there's actually an opportunity to have a productive conversation. But if I see that someone is so far gone, and I can recognize that very quickly because of my mom, then I don't.
Well, that's another thing I think of making art out of it is like, I mean, at least in my end, I don't talk to my dad as much anymore. It's just very stuck. There's nothing. And if you can't have any progress or change with the person, well, then the only place that you can explore those feelings, if not with the person itself, is like theoretically on stage, exploring the past, extrapolating it into a song, into a bit. It just sounds like I totally understand that feeling of like, I can't, there's nothing else to be done.
Well, I earlier when I was like, does it hurt that your dad doesn't acknowledge the jokes that you make about him? Because if I do have a whole show about my mom, but I know that she would be hurt if I talked about like certain things about our relationship. Like this is just the tip of the iceberg, you guys.
Yeah.
And I can feel the pain of like making something and like, you are such an incredibly successful comedian and I'm a successful comedian. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're still always going to want their love and approval. My mom doesn't. Yeah, I want to get into your family shit too. But my mom doesn't. She doesn't listen to any of my music. She doesn't know anything that I do if she's not on social media, which is kind of a good thing.
Does it make you sad though? Do you want her to listen to music?
There's always going to be a part of me that will want her to recognize that I am a brilliant artist. And I've let go of that because I know that that's something that I need to find within myself. But it's like, you show your mom a drawing, you're like, look at this. Look at this thing I made. And she just there's no recognition there. Yeah,
but also it's tough with like sometimes they just don't like the thing that I don't think my dad likes stand-up comedy, period. So it doesn't really matter. I could be the greatest comedian in the world, and I don't think it would make him, he could see it even if it was someone else. My dad's not like at home like, oh, fuck that last Mulaney special. Really, he really
But
dug
he does
into
have
that.
ideas. He has a movie pitch for you.
He has a movie pitch.
Yeah.
He has My Wife's Boob Job. That's all he's got for me.
Well,
it's like, you got to
I'm
explore
sorry,
that.
that's the movie pitch?
Yeah, just
It's
My
called
Wife's Boob
My
Job.
Wife's Boob Job.
And I ended up making a joke about him buying, his ex's boobs. So I did do, but like that's like part of me was like, I thought maybe if he could think of that level, he'd go like, oh wow, you did do something with what I said to you.
Well, someday we're gonna make a full length feature of My Wife's
But
Boob
let me
Job.
tell you, I could make the full length feature, and it wouldn't even register. All that matters to him is that he had that idea, and wouldn't that be a good
We'll
idea?
put his name in the
right.
in
So
the
if he
credits.
makes it about him.
Yeah.
Okay, my version of that is my mother exploits my artistic talents to serve herself, which includes making me Photoshop her face onto pictures of Chinese empresses. I take her face, I put it on a picture of a Chinese empress. I Photoshop her skin so she looks 25. I put digital makeup on her, and she prints it out and she frames it in her house.
Wow.
Another time, she asked if I would produce and record her own musical album where she covered my songs.
That is such. It's like one of those therapy things where it's like, you gotta talk to someone. This is so. Wait,
She did record your songs or wanted to? Wow.
I took her into the studio. I hired all my New York musician friends.
Oh my God.
Isn't that her saying, "I love you"?
No, it's her saying, "I love me."
But she's saying, "I
she's
love."
singing your songs.
She's
like,
singing your songs.
She's saying, "Give me the talent that you have and let me bask in the glory of it."
But it means that she truly admires your talent.
She did like that song, I guess.
I can't. You went through with this. Were you sitting there just like?
I think there is a funny version though of her being like, "I love this song so much. It would only be better if I was singing it."
Do you know I auto-tuned the shit out of her voice? It was like, she was like, "Should I do it again?" I'm like, "It's fine."
How is her singing?
It's fine. It's
Sure.
It's like it's a sweet like Asian mom voice. Like it doesn't have a lot of tone. Like she,
You just said yes. Did you go like?
I'm such a good daughter, you guys. I do everything she asks me
If my
to.
dad said, "I'd love to like do an
5
episode where I
minutes.
hosted the Downside."
Yeah. Oh my
If you
God.
came
That'd be
here and it was
that'd
my
be amazing.
dad, I mean,
my
I'd be
God.
too scared. I mean, we wouldn't do it live for sure.
Oh my God.
Would you do that if I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna leave"?
No, I would want him on. We could have him as a guest together.
I meant to tell you, I'm booked that day, so I can't.
Yeah. No, I went to one tense dinner with you guys. I think it's probably good.
Ooh.
It wasn't that tense. That was
What was it like, Russell?
best dinner.
I thought Gianmarco was tense. I thought you weren't giving your dad much to work with, but I was dropping in at the very end of thing. I haven't I didn't have a lot of context.
Russell came in for the last minute of the movie and had some notes on my portrayal.
He was very late to the dinner, and we had a very short amount of time before the show. So,
did you tell your mom? So you record this song, and does your mom? Do you tell her like that was great? Does she play it around the house? Does she play it for her friends? How does she experience this? To me, I don't know. Hearing that as someone who has like a father who doesn't participate in my stand-up at all, I think there's a good chance he will never come to a comedy show again. And I've made.
Has he seen you live?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I'm only stressed that he's gonna like heckle in some weird. Not that he's like that, but he's just crazy.
Would he heckle?
No,
Has he?
he's just weird. It just makes me anxious. I was here once and he wanted to go to the cellar with me. Why did spot? I was just so scared he would hit on a waitress or again. I'm probably overreacting, but he's just weird and I don't trust him and I don't want him in a place of work.
Fair.
So the idea that your mom asked you to do this, I see it from outside as an act of adoration. Who do you cover? Who do you cover? A musician that you love. Can you see it at all like that, or do you truly see it as
Not when it is her face on the album artwork, which I did, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Like in some ways, it was a really wholesome activity because we were making music together. It was
Yeah.
like she started out. I like arguably am a musical person because of her.
yeah.
But the only difference is that she played in the church and I show my ass in my Guns N' Roses cover band. You know?
Yeah.
And so when she's making music, it's very sweet and like she's so like she's not Christian in practice, but she's such a prude with like she doesn't like me to swear. She hates anything that like could be like remotely sexual. So the album that we made was called Songs of My Life. And it was a collection of my songs, some Christian songs, and Michael Jackson's Heal the World with all 4 key changes, which I recruited an entire string section to perform.
Is this on Spotify?
No, but I can send you the MP3s.
Please send me the MP3s.
It's actually on Bandcamp. Yeah.
Can I play a little bit in the episode?
Of course. Yeah.
That's so funny.
How does she share this? Does she give it to friends?
We printed out physical copies, and then she still gives it to friends. It's a fun, like, it's a fun, like, souvenir from that time that we spent together. But at the end of all that, she was like, so what do I do now? And I go, I don't know. This was just for us, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not trying to, like, be a musician, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, what do you do? And I go, I put my stuff on Spotify. There's this thing, I try to do this weird thing of, like, explaining an algorithm and, like, playlisting. And she's like, can you do that for me? Can you put my stuff on these playlists? I go,
So she's got a part in her that goes, maybe.
yeah. I go,
man.
no.
Oh man.
No, I'm not
That's
gonna.
a little tougher. Yeah. Wow.
I'm like, I'm not gonna do that for you.
Yeah, look it up if it's on Bandcamp.
It's called Lily.
You can bleep out the name if you want.
Google Charlene Kaye, Kaye, Songs of My Life, Bandcamp.
Now you talk about your mom could hear you talk about it, and would she have her feelings hurt that like right now?
I don't think so. She
similar.
Yeah. I think that's why I ask you about your dad, because
Of course.
she's come to see the show multiple times. She comes up
What's
on
the
stage
meanest?
with
What's
me.
the harshest like thing in the show that you say that you feel like, oh wow, that doesn't seem to have an impact?
I don't mind giving this away. It is part of my show, but I don't mind talking about it because it is like kind of the cornerstone of why I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's okay. No one's listening.
Yeah. So my show is called Tiger Daughter, or this sounds like a plug. I promise this is in the
You're
context.
welcome to plug it.
It's in the context of what we're talking about. But my show is called Tiger Daughter, or How I Brought My Immigrant Mother Ultimate Shame, and it's about how essentially I'm doing all this stuff to make her proud of me. I cannot make her proud of me no matter what I do. And then there's a point where I'm doing all these things, like I'm playing this weird Harry Potter cover band. That's kind of weird. I do all these like all girl slutty female cover bands. That's kind of weird. Like nothing is actually that offensive until the moment that we were so like estranged for several months because of this politics thing. My sister, who's a filmmaker.
Oh, cool.
She was approached by her production company asking if they could interview my mom for a Tiger Mother character that they were researching. And my mother was like, of course, I'd love to talk about my story. So they talk about this. My mother gets interviewed. And this is when I was very much like public enemy number one, because I was leading the charge with like being a flamin' lib. And in this interview, my sister, she tells this interviewer all about her life. She tells them about how she grew up in poverty. She grew up with nothing. Like she was molested by her uncle. Like she didn't have enough to eat. She talks about how she went to this nationwide talent competition in Singapore called Talent Time, in which she tried to be famous. She sang this song. She went 3 years in a row. She sang Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now, and each time she got runner up. So it's sort of like this chip that has been on her shoulder for her entire life. And then I kept listening to the interview, and then I go back one day and I see this file that I've never seen before, and I go, oh my God, like there's more to the interview. And then I realized that my sister had intentionally cut down the first version of the interview so that I wouldn't hear this next part. And in this next part, she's talking about me. And she says that I'm spoiled and I'm entitled and that I walk around like I've deserved everything and that I brought Marty's memory shame.
Oh my God.
And so then
and you listen to it.
I'm listening to this not knowing that she never thought I was going to hear this. My sister tried to keep me from hearing this, but it just so happened that whatever, she was reorganizing her files or something and didn't think that I was going to come back to that folder. So I write this song about her that was a response to that. And it's called Closest Stranger. And it samples her saying,
oh my God,
that I bring her ultimate shame.
Oh my
and
God.
she found out about the song because she was subscribed to my mailing list this entire time. And I had no idea. So I emailed the song directly to her. And then she calls me and she's crying. And she's like, she's for the first time, I had done something that I regretted. Up until that point, I'm like, I don't regret anything. I had actually done something to really hurt her.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know what to tell you. I was so upset, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to tell the rest of the story.
Sure. Go see the show.
Yeah.
This is a great ad for it.
And then, if you see the show, you'll know what happened, but she allowed me to tell that story.
Now let me ask you this. If she said, don't play that song, do you think you would have respected it? Because if I was a close friend, I'd say, fuck her. You absolutely, I believe in the entitlement of and this is because I would go, that is your right. Mm-hmm. That is your right. That is your story. The person also, it was like for a camera or an audio recorder. This wasn't in secret. So it just feels like, listen, if a professional, it would affect her career. But like in terms of like as a non-public persona, I'm like, that's your right. It's your right completely. I don't know.
Yeah, there was something about like, okay, you're gonna talk about me that way. I'm gonna talk about you that way. I have the receipts. But of course it was a violation because she didn't know that I was ever going to hear that. And then here I am like taking it and putting it in front of the whole world. And she was so, Chinese culture is so big on public images. Like I was talking about, like humiliation is the worst thing that you can do to your elder. And I had just fucking done that. But
so when she comes to the show, I've always said with my mom, and my mom, like, I think she likes comedy, number one, which I think is important. Like, I think she's also been very supportive, but I also think she likes comedy. She sees it if I'm not in it too. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, I always would I would beg her, I'm like, please don't. I don't want the audience to know you're here because I have jokes about her. Yeah. And I think my mom is, I know the things that upset her now, but I think she doesn't seem to be upset about the things that I say.
Yeah.
And I was terrified to have the audience know she was there, and then they would the joke would be too mean for their taste.
Yeah.
And she's so smart that once a host accidentally started asking her who she was, and she avoided talking about. She's on my team. Oh. I trust her at a show.
Yeah.
But when your mom saw the show
from Ohio, I don't know.
I just have to, after the show, she's and she'll tell people, but I imagine after your show. Is your mom...
Okay, so my mom
Is your mom going, thank God she looks like my ex?
So my mom, she came to my show in Brooklyn last summer. And it was so funny because I knew that I was going to bring her up and I had set aside a seat for her in the back so that she wouldn't be noticed. And I said, Mom, you got to come 10 minutes after the show starts so that no one sees you. Yeah. And if you can, please cover your hair because she has this very recognizable bob that I talk about at length in the show.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I was like, can you please cover your hair? Because everyone's gonna see you and be like, oh, that's her.
Yeah.
But my mom, she takes a fucking scarf, wraps it around her head, and it's a loud leopard print scarf. And then she wears these giant Hollywood sunglasses, and then not just that, but she comes in, and I have video footage of this because my videographer was like, "That's hilarious." She's coming in, and she goes, "Don't look at me." So of course everyone goes, "That's Charlene's mom."
Oh my God.
So she's just sitting there in the back and people are like,
She enters from the wings oh, I thought I was going to be coming out this way, just
But then she came up on stage with me and we sang the song that she sang at Talent Time together, which was very sweet.
Oh my God.
I know, everyone was crying.
I'm sure the audience must have been conflicted because it sounds like they might I feel anger towards, things that your mom has done.
Yeah.
That it's imagine at the end of my stand-up I said, come on up here, Dad, let's sing a duet together.
See, I think it's nice because it feels like I don't think we have, it's not all one thing or the other. It's a mixture
That's the thing, it's this endless unsolvable loop that I'm going to be stuck in forever. And there are times when I love her and we're getting along great because I do feel very similar to her in a lot of ways. And then it just goes back around again, and it's that's what it is.
It's crazy. You have let her live her dream as close as she could possibly as a non-performer. She's in Brooklyn at a sold-out show, singing the song from the.
Which was the first time she'd sung it since she was 14.
Wow.
I feel like the gifts that you have given her.
Thank you. I agree.
Brutal. It's just brutal. That do you want her to? It's some people don't have this relationship. Do you want her to grab you and say, "Thank you, Charlene"?
No, her way of we got into a fight when I was just home, and I was crying, and I was like, "I just want you to comfort me," and she goes, "How? I don't know how." And then I realized. I'm trying to draw water from a stone in this way that I will never get from her. My child, the instinct in me is I'm crying. I want to be comforted by my mom, but she literally doesn't have the tools. She never had a mother who comforted her. She goes, my mother never told me once that she loved me. My mother would pull me by the ear until I bled. And I go, okay, well, you must think you're being a great mom then. It's all relative. Our reference points are all so different. And I don't particularly want kids, but I'm sure there will be blind spots if I do decide that I don't see. And it's just intergenerationally being passed down in these different ways.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm just trying to see where we're at with this. Okay. Well, I'm going to see the show. I'm fascinated.
I
Yeah.
would love if you guys could see it.
Yeah. Well, of course. I just think, I mean, my dad, he knows how to comfort. That's the thing. Like, other things missing, but like in terms of like physical affection and like physical comforting, it's very straight. Like, has your mom had any? When my dad has had medical things, there is a really like a primal thing where we're able to connect like in that moment in like a wordless, not language based, but like I think in ways that some people would find weird, but like I definitely like slept in my dad's bed like on and off for like a chunk of my middle school childhood, like because he was a bachelor, and I had was scared, I had bad dreams, and so he had a big enough bed, and we hug and kiss and all these things, and so there is that still.
Oh yeah, you kiss on the lips, right?
Yeah, we do it too, and it's
I've seen that joke.
and people, I mean, truly, and again, I thought it was Italian, and it's not. I don't know why it became that, but it's very like, so we have that still. When your mom, have there been any moments? Have you ever had that moment of it where maybe she's scared and she says to you, have you comforted her? You want her to comfort you. Have you ever?
The thing, like this past trip, she was very sick, and my stepdad had just passed a couple months ago, and so I was taking care of her, and I was feeling. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Tissues for the podcast.
This is a great comedy podcast, guys. Yeah, she was very sick with this respiratory infection, and it was just me and her. So for the first time, I was being her caretaker. After she had been the caretaker for my stepdad, who had Alzheimer's for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
And passed away 2 months ago. So she's just exhausted. She's grieving in her own way, and she doesn't know how.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is the hardest thing for her, and she felt so powerless because she wasn't sleeping. She was coughing a lot. I was cooking for her. I was taking care of her. And it's a very hard thing when your most uncomfortable place is weakness. Your own fragility, like looking in the mirror and being like, I'm going to expire someday. I've just seen my husband. I've seen 2 husbands to the door, all the way to the river, and I was trying to be there as much as I could, and I could also see the ways in which she was lashing out at me was a result of her not having control. And I had to summon everything within me to give her as much grace as possible, because that's not a place that she is comfortable in. She's so used to having everything in a row, being the strongest person in our family, pulling everything together, being that ultimate strength. And it's a pain in the ass, but it's also, she's the pillar of where everything comes from. She's this, like, I feel her strength in me when I'm out in the world. Like, I know where I get that from.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for the tools that I have where I can channel them in a way that feels more resonant more true to who I am and the work that I do. And it's also hard to have compassion for her and also hold space for myself and be like, that's fucked up what you said to me.
Yeah.
You don't get to talk to me like that after I have taken out your trash and cooked for you and rubbed your feet and like done all these things to make you feel good. And then here you are telling me that I never listened to you. And like, you're saying, where does that even come from? It's not even true. And it's this mental gymnastics that you have to do with yourself over and over again to assert your own autonomy and realize that you are an adult. You're not a child anymore. But you're always going to feel like a child with your parents.
Yeah.
And you're never going to stop wanting their love.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. We should get to this has got to stop, but I do want to just bring up briefly that Darren Criss, who you went to college with.
Great pivot.
He recently, was he the one who said culturally queer?
Yes.
Fantastic. Poor guy. I know exactly what he meant.
Yes.
And
yes.
is he in a show right now?
Yes.
On where?
He's in Maybe Happy
Maybe
Ending.
Happy Ending.
So exactly.
Yeah.
Our friend told us last night. He said
This is incredible.
He said you have
Yeah.
to see it, and
You'll love it.
It doesn't have a closing date, does it?
Not that I know.
Not yet.
Okay, I gotta see it. I haven't seen like a new musical
Everyone says
in
it's
so long, and I
wonderful.
hear it's amazing.
Yeah.
You guys still close friends?
Yes, this is
Yeah.
the Darren Chris segment of the show.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just laughing because, like, I texted my friend Ryan Wentz of Two Tree Hill, and I was like, "You would not believe how many people text me and say, hey, do you think you could get me backstage to the
my
Pulaski
God.
Theater so I
Sure,
can nip backstage
sure.
with a quick picture with Darren?" I'm like, "Am
Yeah.
I his agent? No." Like, I just
Yeah.
But it's funny that I'm glad people know that we're friends, but I'm not. I don't have that power.
Well, I
Sorry,
guess
guys.
we can skip this next part. Then. You started in a band, or he was part of a troupe, and
Yes,
he brought
was
you
in
in.
Star Kid, which is
Oh yeah, I've heard
which
of that.
a lot of your fans are Star Kids because when I was at the Silver Lining last time, I played that song about the freaky fan fiction that the Harry Potter fans
Yeah.
would write about me, Darren, and all these magical beasts fucking each other.
Wow.
This
Oh,
was
tell
my
me what that
big-
troupe is. What is
It's
it?
called Star Kid.
Uh-huh.
They're like they're an internet theater group. They started out when I was a senior, when Darren and I are in the same graduating class when we were at Michigan. And our senior year, they geniusly wrote and produced a 3-hour parody musical that was the plot of all 7 Harry Potter books.
Yes.
It was called A Very Potter Musical. And when it became clear that they had enough of an internet following to tour, they invited me to open for them with my own music and play guitar in their backing band.
Wow.
So for months, I was touring with them, playing the biggest venues we'd ever played.
What are we talking about here, size-wise?
We played Roseland Ballroom in New York City, 5,000 people.
Oh
Wow.
my god!
This thing was like, it was a fucking Justin Bieber concert every night. And what was wild was that they didn't even have to sing because the crowd was so deafening. And it was all these horny virgins who had never like been to a concert like that before. And it was just this weird internet thing that like if you were on Tumblr in 2012,
Yeah.
then you knew what this thing was. And it was this perfect cross section of like musical theater nerd and horny Harry Potter fangirl.
Yeah. And was J.K. Rowling? Did she ever like come by? Like, did they intersect? No.
No, I remember that there was something with like Potted Potter and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
They were a phenomenon unto themselves, and they went on to do a bunch of other parody musicals. They did like a Batman one. They did one called Twisted, which was basically like Wicked for Aladdin from Jafar's point of view.
Oh my god.
Oh, interesting.
But they're still active. They do a bunch of stuff, and then of course Darren went on to do Glee when he was like 24, 25, and yeah, I owe that group a lot. Every time I play a show, there's like at least 1 or 2 people who are like, I went to see you when I was 14, when I was in
That's
Star Kid.
wild.
And,
Wow.
like, it's such a loyal and devoted fandom. And what the coolest thing is that I get a lot of girls that are coming up to me like, you're the first girl that I ever saw playing guitar on stage.
Really?
Or like, you're the
Wow.
first Asian girl I ever saw playing guitar on stage, and now I play guitar because of you. That's the best thing that I can ever hear.
That's very sweet.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Because you became a big J.K. Rowling fan, like in the
Just
last
recently,
couple
just
years.
recently.
Oh,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
personally?
No. It's Gianmarco's segment. Just getting canceled.
Let's go into our next segment. This
Yeah.
gotta stop.
This has gotta stop.
This has gotta stop. That's my father.
Okay. I was wondering.
Now I feel inspired. I'm like, I want to do an episode where I'm not here and it's my dad and he leads it.
Oh my
And it's you and my dad and a guest.
God.
And I don't even tell the guest.
No, that would be
Maybe it's a guest that I don't. One of our less favorite guests. I go, hey, come on back. I would love to then listen to it. To then just like,
from the other room.
just from the other room.
I feel like it'd be fun for like 10 minutes, and then it would be.
I think 10 minutes is very optimistic of you. I think it would be awkward right out the gate.
Please let me be here.
Yeah.
This has got to stop. By the way, real quick, I didn't say this earlier. We didn't even play the theme music earlier because we didn't have time. Don't do it now, Lucas. It's done.
Sorry, my bad.
The theme music is now the Michael Jackson cover by Lily. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. Russell and I, we just did our first, we did online, we did a live episode, and we had patrons. They were able to talk to us on camera. We got to meet some of our listeners, and we're going to do that, I think, once every 3 months.
Yeah.
But maybe more of it keeps going. I want to do more Patreon episodes, honestly, but we at least do 2 a month. Usually just me and Russell, and be part of the show. Join us, patreon.com/downside. Russell, do you have a This Has Got to Stop?
Yes. Okay. This got to stop. With the weather, having to change footwear, and there's no. I want to wear my sneakers, but then they get wet, and then I slide everywhere. So then I was like, I wear these boots, and I wear these boots like twice a year, and every fucking time I wear them, I forget how heavy they are, and it like actually is like just hard to walk around. Like I'm tired. I like just coming here. I was like, these are so heavy, and I have no good winter footwear, and I'm very frustrated by it because I want to wear the same shoes I always wear, but I was sliding all over the place last night wearing those sneakers.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what to do, and I'm frustrated by it.
It's like a bunch of ankle weights.
Yes.
Built in.
Yes.
It's when I get caught outside in like the wrong sneaker and you're sliding and you're like, I'm gonna hurt myself.
I'm gonna hurt myself.
Have you ever
And I
slipped
have
in the ice? Like that's a kind of injury that'll just fucking
I have
nail
trauma
you.
from when I slipped this summer, so I'm like so paranoid about slipping again. Like I feel I slipped in a hotel room in Barbados, and I twisted my knee in such a weird way, and that like I feel when I feel like I could slip, I like feel like that sensation again of like, and it freaks me out. Like,
Wait, it was in the hotel or leaving the jacuzzi? What, I forget if I'm remembering the right
it was
injury.
there was jacuzzi on the balcony, so it was like going back into the room.
And then when you were in Gutenberg, you slipped again. You're slipping and sliding.
I fell down a set of stairs at the James Earl Jones
Take a
Theater.
ballet class with me.
Yeah.
We'll get our balance back.
It was for Gutenberg. They were like, "Here's this. Try on these pair of shoes and walk around with them." And I immediately fell down a flight of stairs.
Yeah, it's icy out there.
Yeah.
Don't hurt yourself.
My This Has Got to Stop. I fly a lot, so I'm diamond status on Delta. And when you have any kind of status on Delta, I go to check in at the desk. They have to do this thing where they go, "Thank you so much for being a Diamond Delta member."
Yeah.
As if I'm keeping a roof over their head.
Yeah.
And like sometimes they say it really like, I have to say this, but sometimes they put oomph into it.
Thank you.
And that's when I feel bad because I go like, "Oh, you're lying to me. You're
Yeah.
acting for me." And then in turn, I'm acting back. I go, "No problem." Like,
Yeah.
and we're both putting on a play for nobody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this?
You are so welcome.
It's
Yeah.
some weird like it's like this. It's like to me, it feels like it's like a corporate emotional ritual exercise to keep us both in our place.
Yeah.
They have to say it and act it
Yeah.
so they continue to be more
and
subservient.
there's some customers that like hearing it. That they're like,
Yes.
That's the
They're
grossest
like,
part.
Thank you for this preferential
Wow.
treatment.
Yes,
I
you're
did pay
welcome.
extra
You're
for this.
welcome. Yeah.
And I wish there was a way to check a box to say I don't need this part. I don't
don't-
need this.
I don't-
because they
I
do
need
it,
you to
They do it.
act.
They do it in the when I check in for the flight, when I scan my thing, when I
That's
leave.
a lot
sometimes
of times. You don't need to be reminded that many times.
And I don't want to have to because I can't go. Yeah, I have to go. And I don't like that. I don't like to be put in that position, or else I'm a jerk. And by the way, they in their mind, like that's one of the things you get as like
Yes.
like, and I'm like, no,
Yeah, it's a part of-
that
it's a
doesn't
service.
count as that's worth 0 to me. All I care about is my seat to be a little more legroom. Anything else, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. That doesn't. I don't know.
Well, if you are part of the 1% as they think you are, you could be a piece of shit and they probably wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
Sure, that's fair.
You could just be like,
Yeah.
fuck off.
But
I have billions of dollars.
I just want to tell them.
But
like,
also
I'm
that's
like, you don't
forcing him to be rude to someone for no reason. Like you're like, either way, it's a bad thing. Just get rid of it, you know?
I just hate it when I think the worst is when it feels like and maybe they're acting so well that I'm being fooled, but
Maybe
sometimes
they
I feel
mean
like
it.
they mean it, and I go, please don't mean that. please don't give me this part of you.
You're like, I
Thank
know my money
you.
isn't going to you specifically.
Thank you so much for being a
Thank
diamond.
you so
And I'm like,
much.
I'm like, are you okay?
They're just doing their jobs.
Charlene, do you have this gotta stop?
Yes, my this has got to stop is everyone on the goddamn internet thinking that I look like Bobby Lee.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Oh.
like I'm talking multiple times a day. Is that Bobby Lee? I didn't know Bobby Lee was doing drag now. Bobby Lee has curves, all this stuff. It's not Sandra Oh, not Aquafina, not Lucy Liu, not Connie Chung, not Ali Wong. It's Bobby Lee consistently.
That's crazy.
Every single day of my life.
Can I ask can we pull up Bobby Lee?
We can pull up Bobby Lee.
Well, you don't know what Bobby Lee looks like?
No, I'm just saying like.
Oh, you're
let's-
gonna see it and then be like, oh.
Yeah, let's talk about this in real time.
Because I want to go. Is there a way to put it on? Oh, there we go. Amazing. Okay, so now that does not feel fair.
Okay, maybe in that one.
In that one, so okay, which other than of course generalized racism, what aspects of his face do you think they recognize?
Okay, we do have a bit of a wide jaw. I can see that. Maybe we both have a bit of a monolid going on. I don't know. We're Asian. Like a lot of people look like this.
Okay, just so we can see it
Okay,
back.
I
Open
kinda
up a
see
new,
it.
open up a
That
new
one.
Bobby
window.
Lee-
Open up a new window and put in Charlene Kaye.
Put Bobby Lee drag. Maybe there's a.
I first pull up a new window of just.
CHARLENE. Last name KAYE.
Okay, move that there. No, I said not Bobby Lee again.
Nice.
No, okay, put him. Okay. You definitely have more full body shots than Bobby Lee. That's for sure. Yes, that's so. It's just a jaw, just a bigger a jaw. That's what you think it is. What do you think, Russell?
People just wait, but I'm confused. People, are they commenting on your thing, or they're?
I mean, it's
how are they
crazy.
They're
It's
saying-
not.
not
They're
similar
saying
at all.
they're saying I just look like Bobby Lee. Okay, maybe though.
It's not.
No.
It's not.
Okay.
Is there so you listed a couple Asian celebrities. Is there one that you think that what are you closest to?
I don't know. I mean, I genuinely think I don't look like any of these people.
Sure.
Because you just see your face every single day. Even like Sandra Oh, which is the one that I used to get a lot. She has more of like an
Pull up
oval.
Sandra Oh.
She's more like an oval shaped face. She's Korean and Chinese.
I was like, is that Sandra? Oh, I was like, oh man.
Sandra Oh, Bobby Lee drag.
Wow, this search is crazy. Is this being screen recorded as well?
No, my poor
Okay.
editor's gonna have to pull all these things up. Yeah, I don't think you're all unique individual people. But you gotta have a count. Like for me, I get Jeff Goldblum, I get Hugh Jackman. Someone at a yoga studio, she came to me, she said, "You look like Hugh Jackman," and I mean that in the good way.
What,
And I
Hugh
was like-
Jackman's already hot.
I was like, believe you me,
I don't
what's
mean
the
it
what's the
in
bad
Australian
bad
way.
way?
But like, what's up with people just saying you look like so and so? Even if it's you look like my high school best friends. Like I have no idea who that is. Why do people say you look like somebody else? What is that? Unless you're like, even if you say like you look like Scarlett Johansson, which is maybe like the biggest compliment somebody could give you.
I think about it like, so my opener is 7 feet tall. And there's a thing that I've always be curious to see in other countries if the culture is different, where people ask him all the time, how tall are you? And of course they do. It's a thought you have. But what doesn't seem to exist is the second step where you go,
He probably
I
gets-
want to know that. He probably gets this all the time, so I won't. In fact, they say to him all the time, they go, I'm sure this is annoying when people ask and you want to kill them. And, you know, if anyone asked you, you'd make you mad and you'd resent them for it. But... and it's the same thing with like the looks. Like it's like even if you see someone who looks like someone, especially knowing that Asian people get this shit all the fucking time on the internet in their life, it's the part of you that goes like, even if you see someone and it's a fucking dead ringer, just let it go.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the closer it is for a dead ringer, the more that poor person's probably heard it every fucking day.
Yes.
Leave them alone.
Yeah.
No, it's just fascinating to me. Like I barely comment on anything on Instagram, but if I did, I wouldn't say, is that Jeff Goldblum? Like, what is
Sure.
the thought process of?
People do that. People say anemic Hugh Jackman. They say Woody Allen, and I mean in the bad way.
Yeah. I got Temu Tim Dillon. Remember?
Tim Dillon. He gets
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of Tim
Temu
Dillon.
Tim Dillon.
Depends. It depends on
I
how
got
you're looking that
JD
day.
Vance sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Temu is really funny though.
Yeah.
I would be the Temu Bobby Lee just because that's another Asian reference.
So you haven't met. I've met Bobby Lee.
I have met Bobby Lee.
You have met
actually.
Bobby Lee.
Oh.
So I wrote a song about how everyone thinks that I look like Bobby Lee, and I put it online, and everyone was tagging him in it. And I met him at this comedy event. It was the Hulu party. He was there.
Yes.
And we had like interacted on Instagram because he saw the song and then he just DM'd me with like a little thumbs up, and I was like, ah! I was like so excited.
Yeah.
And so when I went up to him, I was like, hey, do you know who I am? And he was like, no. And I was like, I'm the girl who wrote the song about how everyone thinks that we look alike. He goes, oh, we don't look anything alike.
Yeah.
And I go, that's very nice of you, but the internet disagrees. And then we took a little video where he goes, we're two different people.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it was cute.
Does it bother? Does it bother you deep down, or do you go, fuck it? People are gonna just say this forever, and I just ignore it, and it'll fade one day.
I am genuinely not bothered by it because I think it is so funny.
Yeah.
And it's giving me material to work with. Like,
Sure.
I really like the song that I wrote about him.
Sure.
And I think it is hilarious that this even comes up because it just shows how little Asian representation there is and how far we have to go. And like, it's sad to say, but I am kind of desensitized to it. It's like, it's a stereotype that I've been dealing with my entire life. And whether or not that's a good thing, don't know. But I'm going to use it to continue to make art. And
Yeah.
I'm
It
just
would be
gonna-
funny if we put this out as a new podcast with Tim Dillon and
And Bobby Lee.
And Bobby
Hugh
Lee.
Jackman interviewing Bobby Lee. That would get some real numbers.
Yeah, look at some real numbers. Hugh Jackman.
Tim
All of
Dillon's
our-
fans would.
All of our celeb doppelgangers.
All right, let's go on to our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessing.
Who sings that?
That is Douglas
friend
Goodhart.
Douglas Goodhart.
Our
We
good
had
friend
dinner with
Douglas
last night.
Is that going to be your blessing?
Yeah.
Sure, go for it. Explain.
Gianmarco very generously invited me and Douglas last night to a really nice dinner. He had a free dinner because he did a show somewhere.
Yeah, it wasn't paid, but then they said you get a free dinner.
And
at
we
the
were
time,
like-
I was like, why did you do this? And we used it.
And
I
we
think
were
it's
like-
supposed to have been paid for a spot.
We were like, is this really free? Is it real free? And then when it was free, we were ordering shrimp towers. We were
yeah,
getting nice
baby.
cocktails. It was just, glasses. We had a nice meal. And thank you so much for arranging that and doing that.
Honestly, it's free, so it's
That's a blessing.
it's all good.
Yeah, but it was
I was
great.
happy to have you
I
guys
had
there.
such a nice night with you. Yeah.
Yeah, we got drunk. I mean, I got
It was
drunk.
nice to we hadn't seen you in a while because you've been in LA, so it was good. It was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. I always get nervous. We have dinner and then we do the podcast. We're like, well, we'll have nothing.
I
to
know we
talk
talked
about.
all last night.
We have to like
Yeah, you're gonna
recreate.
save it for the tape.
My blessing. I don't know. I had a run of shows. I was in Utah, and then I did I always want to say Midwest or South. I mean, what would Alabama, Oklahoma, Kansas? Is that South?
Southwest,
Southwest. I did fly South by Southwest, so that would make sense.
Southeast. I don't know.
Yeah, and there was two. I try not to make all these blessing things like people who come to the show, but there was a guy who came who was emotional, but he gave me he listened to podcasts. He knows I like sashimi in my dressing room, and he gave me it was basically canned fish, but I guess he called it Kansas sushi, and he gave me a whole card. Like that's a
okay.
joke.
Okay.
And but he was very sweet, and I don't know. It's then another guy said he had heart surgery. I did crowd work with him. He died for 3 minutes, and I asked him the question. I said, "Is God a fan of my work?" And he said, "He saw nothing." I'm trying to do fun crowd work. He's like, "I saw nothing, nothing."
Nothing.
I said, "Great. I don't know. I don't want my blessed to just be fan things. Oh, okay. Here's a real blessing. Delta. I know we complained, but Delta, they have a new thing with the Delta Lounge, you can opt to not go in the Delta Lounge, and instead they have a little meal thing to go. So I haven't been using the Delta Lounge a long time because I started the intermittent fasting, so I'm not eating in the mornings. But now, instead of going to the lounge, I can get a sandwich, a banana, a coffee, and it's all free. And a sandwich at the airport is $14 or whatever. And I was like, this is the solution. This is what you do. For a while they were like, we're going to limit people who can use the lounge, and suddenly it didn't mean anything anymore. You didn't have lounge access, and they make the corporate decision of like, oh, we'll lessen it, or you can only do it from this hour to this hour, and everyone hates it, and everyone's miserable. And then someone fucking put things together and said, oh, now we'll give you an option, and now I don't feel like I've been turned away. In fact, I got a deal. Yeah, and we're all happy, and that's the way it can work, guys. So keep at it, Delta.
And thank you for being a Diamond member.
Yeah.
You're well. Thank you. You're welcome.
That is the response that I wanted.
What's your blessing, Charlene?
Okay, this is gonna seem crazy, but this is gonna seem crazy in the light of the whole TikTok fucking like hullabaloo that happened yesterday. But I am great. I found myself feeling grateful that a lot of my close friendships this year and last year have sprung from social media in this way that I wasn't expecting. Like they've really translated into real life friendships.
Really?
Just like this. Like a lot of my, because this is a friendship and not a public podcast, guys. Let's not get it twisted. Like some of my comedy community I've found largely because I've seen their clips and I've been like, hey, I think you're amazing. Like go to their shows. It's like made me a better artist. It's allowed me to work on my stuff, and like, I've just never. I didn't think that it was going to that type of translation could happen. But I'm 38. Like I've been doing music for my whole life, and I only started doing comedy a few years ago. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if it weren't for making these funny videos and like finding this online community. And I wouldn't have found you and done your impression of you. And like, just like it's a weird thing to say, because all of the fucking social media apps are controlled by like right-wing magnets now. But if there is a silver lining in that, I feel like it has resulted in these tangible connections and friendships that are lifting me up currently.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Elon Musk.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you, President.
Thank you, General.
Thank you,
I can't
President.
even bring myself to say it. Can't even bring myself to say it.
That's fantastic. Can you tell people where they can find you?
I'm on Instagram, Charlene Kaye, or you can find me at bobbylee.com. Be right there. Come see my show at the Bell House.
What date is that?
It is February 25th.
February 25th. Amazing. It was weird when I was at the store. I met Margaret Cho.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And you said you watched her growing up, like you admired her as a performer, and then got to work with her.
Marty was a big Margaret Cho fan.
Yeah.
And so some of my first memories of seeing comedy ever was just sitting on the couch watching her talk about her mom.
Oh,
so
yeah.
she's been very influential to me. And
it would be
on many
so
levels.
nice if the comedians that I admired as a kid were not IDF supporting 17-year-old dating Zionists. That would be real nice. It'd be real nice if the comedian that I loved the most when I was a kid, I wanted to work with, as opposed to when I said, hey, how would you like me to bring you up when I'm hosting at West Side Comedy Club? And they said, whatever.
Oh, fun.
Jerry.
Fun. He's a fun guy.
God. There's a different world where Jerry,
What a great way to
he'd be
end.
producing Jerry. Russell. Where can people find you?
At Russell J. Daniels on Instagram, and buy tickets. We still have some sold out shows, but we have some shows like San Diego. Get those tickets.
We're going to put all the
San
links
Diego.
below. We got San Diego, still has tickets.
LA.
LA, it's almost sold out, so get them if you want them.
Yeah.
We can't do two shows with the podcast. It's too much. What else? LA.
There's one more. San Francisco.
Portland sold out. San Francisco, we got a little more. And then we got Vancouver. Vancouver,
Oh,
my
yes.
stand-up show is sold out. Listen, if you want to see my stand-up, that show is sold out. But the day before, we're doing the podcast. I do a little bit of stand-up up top. And we're also looking, I know Vermont, we were going to go there, and then we had to cancel it. It was supposed to be tomorrow night. But we're scheduling something soon. So stay tuned.
Tomorrow night.
Originally, we were going to do Vancouver tomorrow night.
Oh, I see.
Again, this is all if I don't get killed tonight. But you know, if that happens, we're gonna have to move some things around. Jesus Christ, I'm a little bit scared.
Oh my God, that would be such a bad tour if I did the downside alone.
And
Oh
also,
my God.
if we didn't announce my death
Titanic.
publicly, if
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
to announce at the beginning of each show,
And I just read your stand up.
can you do that for me?
Yeah, yeah.
If I die, can we not tell the presses?
Yeah,
and have you
we'll
announce
keep
it
it
at
secret and have me
Downside Show.
announce at the Downside Live.
Patreon, join the
And
Patreon.
make everyone put their phones away. So I'm going around city to city to tell everyone the news. Don't tell anyone on social media he's dead.
I'll make some videos like
Yeah.
in advance, like, hey, I hear there's a rumor going or I'll do it right now.
Yeah.
I hear there's a rumor going around that I'm dead and Russell came on stage and said I was dead. I'm fine, guys.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll use
fine.
this.
Ignore the calendar in the back. This is later.
Resurrected just
I
like
hope you
TikTok.
don't die though tonight. I would be.
It would be a bummer for
would be a
sure.
bummer.
I would not be happy
Just keep
about
looking
it.
over your shoulder.
Yeah.
I know Russell's, if I die, Russell is going to, because listen, everyone's looking to you and Tova to like knock the eulogy out of the park.
Oh.
Just so you know, it's like, I know Douglas and Chris could probably do a good one, but like they're gonna look towards you.
I'm
to
gonna have
do
a
it.
writer's room for it. Yeah.
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 You could start it with like, well, Gianmarco finally got me to write something new. This weekend I'm gonna be in Bakersfield, California. The weekend after that, we're taping my special at the. San Francisco. San Francisco is the week after that. And I think we added our 10th show. I'm hoping to might get to 12. Buy tickets, San Francisco. And then once you get those, then get those downside ones. Don't worry about the downside yet. And then I'm taping the special in LA. If you're in LA or you're near LA, those shows are sold out, but we will have a waiting list. I want it to be sold out because there's not that many seats. So join that waiting list. And we'll come up with something. If you can't do the waiting list, I'll get you into another show early. Join my mailing list, join the text list, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. And fuck it, go to Bobby Lee's videos now and then and say, oh my God, is that Charlene Kaye?
Please.
Yeah.
Did I just encourage?
Racism.
This is
No, it's not racist if it's the other way around.
Okay.
this is the downside.
That's justice.
1, 2, 3.
Yay.
Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.